So Mixtape finally released, and looking at what is happening around this video game, it's just, let's call it sus. All the mainstream major gaming outlets, all the big YouTube reviewers seem to just straight up love it. It's receiving 10 out of 10 across the board, and maybe there's like a rare few exceptions, and the Steam reviews also have very positive rating, but there is not a lot of reviews on Steam, and it seems like just a small player base that knew what they were buying and they liked what they received, and that's great. Same thing with ratings on PlayStation, 4.9 stars on 900 plus reviews, and on Xbox the game is in Game Pass, so you have some people who didn't really buy the game with an expectation, and they didn't just love what they bought because it's on Game Pass. You can just play it and just after a few minutes you can review the game. 4.2 out of 5, and this has a lot more negative voices than other stores. However, the 1-star reviews are mostly the ones that bring up IGN's 10 out of 10 and journalists who gave it 10 out of 10 and the glaze in the media that is happening. And even if someone even remotely tries to like talk about the plot of the game, they literally say the things that are complete bullshit and untrue. So no, there is no sticking it to the patriarchy in the game. The word doesn't even appear in the game. There is no agenda in the game whatsoever. And here, for an example, is someone calling it a indie masterpiece, that it was ruined for him because they couldn't get all the achievements just by finishing the game, and that's 1 out of 5 for someone. So we have two sides, journalists who apparently love the game, and we also know that some of the journalists and content creators online received a package with a bunch of junk like CD player with Mixtape and headphones, and I find it hilarious when I see, for an example, there was a streamer who was actually wearing the headphones on her neck when she was playing the game, showcasing the headphones, but at the same time not using them, using just regular ass earphones for like $10.99 from the supermarket, because she just had to showcase that she got the junk from the developers. Wow. So all the journalists also do say the same stuff. Like, for an example, in the videos that review the game, in the posts, in the articles, I felt nostalgic. The feelings, the music, the performances, always the same stuff. I felt nostalgic for the 90s. And even some people who say that the game didn't speak to them, they say that this is a 10 out of 10 experience and they recommend it to everyone. Huh? So like, okay, I actually did wait for this game to come out. I saw the first trailer, I guess it was like a Summerfest, and I was really interested in the game, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot when it's coming out. And I wasn't automatically sold on it, but the game was kinda made for someone like me, because like, despite of the fact that I am brain-rotted by a Souls-like and a competitive FPS games, I also do like a good story-driven games with choices, walking sims, and touching story at sometimes that may be even cringe or funny, if it is done well. So like, the game was genuinely aimed at someone like me. So the problem with Mixtape is that there is no choices at all, even with Telltale games. We at least had an illusion of choice, or the choice would, for an example, matter for like 2 seconds, or matter in a way that didn't really matter, because for an example, you could have like killed off one character to save the other one, and you would progress through the story with one of them being alive and the second one being dead, but at the same time they genuinely have the same lines and the same personalities almost. So like, there's little to no difference, and the outcome of the games would be genuinely just the same binary choice between two endings eventually. So like, there is no really like story choices in these games, and the most egregious ones were in Game of Thrones by Telltale, which you can't even play today because the game got delisted and you just have to search it on a secondary market from scalpers, and the game isn't even on the disc because it was season pass disc. So there is nothing in this game, in the Mixtape, that you do to have some kind of a change in the story. Your actions or lack thereof, choices, no dialogues, no nothing, you don't pick anything, and even if you miss every single clickable item that you can click and have a conversation with your friends about, or hear like the main protagonist comment on the item or on the experience that they had with these items, you actually do not see anything change. It's just a walking sim disguised as an adventure game. And there are sequences that you need to play. So it's not like some people are saying that the game is just going to play itself. You still have to push the analog stick to move the character, you have to go somewhere, you have to take the picture, you have to do something. Although there are sequences that genuinely present themselves as they are an actual gameplay sequences, but you can just put down the controller and watch the shit happen on the screen and you don't even have to touch it. So for an example, riding in a shopping cart. There is the sequence, and throughout the entire sequence you don't even have to touch the controller. You have running through the town in 2D section, kinda 2D and 3D, and none of these require anything. You just let it run, you put your control down, and there's no anything that is going to change if you bump into every single thing. The character is on auto run, so they are just going to get from the point A to point B. You don't even have to bother with anything. Riding a skateboard is also something that is on autoplay, and sometimes you just have to like readjust your position, because in these sections, if you bump into a car or ride off the road, it's going to be rewound back. But I just don't understand why would you like include this in skateboard sections, but you wouldn't do the same for the sequences when you have to run and jump, for an example, or drive the shopping cart. Like, you could have just added this and it would be better, because you would actually have some consequences, and you just don't. And this, for an example, this is just infamous run section that everyone on the internet's seen. So this, for an example, you have just stuff that happens. So kicking the ball or posing for the photo, that is just something that happens on its own. You don't press anything. That is just an illusion that something is happening in the game and you can do something, but you can't. And it would be nice to have, for an example, click a button even to do the pose, and have like two poses that you can do, like something, I don't know, middle finger or just peace sign, or you run later and you kick the ball, and you can kick the ball, or you can just not kick the ball. So there is nothing that you decide on. You just can leave it and it's going to run exactly the same. It's basically a movie. And I understand the argument from the people who don't classify this game as a game, because yeah, like you don't really do much. However, in the words of like what it is actually, it still is a video game, because you do have to push the analog stick to move around. You do have to pick some items, you do have to play these mini games that you have in the game, throwing the rocks on the bottles, or snapping a picture, or for an example, I don't know, throwing the rocks into the lake, like something like that. You still have to do something. Even the riding on a skateboard, it tries to really readjust itself, so it's not going to go out of bounds or fall into the car, but it's going to, for an example, so you still have to do something. And this game is not going to play itself. Like, however, the interactivity in the game is very small. You don't really have to do much to play through the game. And as someone who played a lot of these types of games, like walking sims or adventure games, Life is Strange, etc., this is probably like the least game in the game I have seen in this genre itself. So comparisons to Life is Strange are also not in the right place, because Life is Strange actually did have gameplay. This using time rewind, for an example. You have moments when someone could have died, for an example, and the game progresses without this character being present in the story. If you messed up the conversation, someone is not going to try to rescue you in certain sequences, or can die in the sequences, or you can save them if you had a good conversation with the characters. And in here, there is nothing. The story just goes from point A to point B, and the only thing that the game actually has for itself is the music, the story, the graphics. Those are things that this game tries to like amplify, and in my opinion, it's like, for an example, really good graphic style. However, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, because you have this like low frame rate animation style used on the characters. Like, for an example, closest comparison to it is Into the Spider-Verse movies. and the story is about the trio of rebellious teenagers in the 90s, and it's like a last day for them to be together, and they want to go to this big party at the end that is happening, and the majority of the story is just going through like the memories that we like have, and then like in the middle of the game we actually continue playing in the current day, current events. And the game is called Mixtape because main protagonist is someone who does mixtapes, and she's about to go and become like a professional music supervisor and making mixtapes for movies in Hollywood and stuff. So every single memory we play through, every situation, everything is done with a commentary of the soundtrack that she planned out, and everything is made with the music in mind. There's always like a name of the song, and we play through the sequence that with music is amplifying the experience. And I have no nostalgia for the 90s, I grew up in the 2000s, okay? And yeah, the music used in this game, I really liked it. It is a great music choice, and they do amplify the experience when you're playing this game. And two bands that I actually did know are only Smashing Pumpkins and Iggy Pop. So like, I don't have really nostalgia for the times and for the music, but I still found some of these things interesting. And as I was playing through Mixtape, I found the story kind of endearing. It's a slice of life type of story about rebellious teenagers. Not everything that is presented in the game visually is real. Like it's something that some people would call artsy-fartsy, for an example, because there is room for interpretation, some elements. Some of them are over-exaggerated, and you see like, no, the cars aren't flying, for an example. No, the protagonists aren't flying in these woods. And no, she did not just... You know what? This one is better experienced when you see it for the first time in a video game when you're playing it. I'm not going to be mentioning that. And I also seen some geniuses, for an example, on streams playing this game with no music. The entire concept of the game is music. It's called a mixtape, for fuck's sake. The music is the element of the game. You have actual track names and bands and the history behind the tracks told to you as the protagonist is narrating the experience as you're playing. In the beginning of every song, she's given you like the preparation, what the song is about, what you should feel and stuff like this, how it was made, what year it was made, and you're playing it with no music. That's genuinely just playing like a husk of a game at this point, even more husk of a game than it already is because it's barely a video game. And I also seen a lot of people lie about the story of the game and the themes that happen in the game, and I can't really address all of them because like those are spoilers. But one of the lies, for an example, is like genuinely the ending of the game, and I can't even talk about it right now, right? Because some people may want to play this game, and I only can say, no, the protagonists don't really do anything bad that isn't wanting to drink and trespassing on the abandoned and ruined dinosaur park. And there is no LGBT in the game at all. The fact that some absolute donkeys are putting like gay, trans in the thumbnails when they talk about this game is a genuinely just pathetic behavior. It's kinda, there's just, for an example, kinda gross scene when you control two tongues and this is a kiss between a guy and a girl. And there is no LGBT at all in the game. I don't know where these people got this from, but no, there is not. This game also has LGBTQ plus tag on Steam, and listen, tags on Steam are user tags, so for an example, if a lot of people place some tag for shits and giggles on the game, it's going to be tagged as such. So for an example, we had sexual content and psychological horror under the Garfield card game, and it's not. So in here we have LGBTQ because some people just genuinely tagged this game as LGBT, despite of there being no LGBT in the game. And it's genuinely just a recreation of the meme when the kid is putting out the demon cutouts and the flames, and he's getting scared of because he made himself scared. So Mixtape is just here to tell story. That can be fun at times, that can be serious at times, and even cringe. And the moments that are cringe, I personally felt like they were cringe on purpose. That's not something that just happened because the writers just wrote something and didn't realize it was cringe. No, these cringe moments were supposed to be cringe in my opinion. That's just my opinion. This game doesn't really deserve the hate it gets, but it does get hate because it doesn't get criticism from the people that should criticize this game. Video game critics. It's just, it's in the name. You should be critical of something that you criticize, that you review. But all the mainstream outlets, the big mainstream reviewers on YouTube, they all praise the game and they don't point out anything that is wrong with this game. And there are things that need to be addressed. So even if there's something they don't like, for an example, they trip over their own words and later they say, but I still loved it and it's great. Even if it didn't speak to me, it's 10 out of 10. And I find it kind of funny how some critics were just pointing out they love it despite of not seeing themselves in the game, and I quote, they called it like white suburban experience, and they say that the game is about 3 white kids, etc. And Cassandra in the game, one of the 3 main protagonists, is literally Asian and has a strict Asian dad, which borders on a stereotype. And what the hell are these people even talking about? Did you actually really play the game, or were you making a cake when the conversations played out? It's hard to miss. And I also do remember that we had the game from Quantic Dream called Beyond Two Souls, and IGN was one of the mainstream outlets that would be reviewing the game, and they gave it 6 out of 10, and they complained about the stuff that should be complained about if it comes to Mixtape. They criticized the combat, they criticized the lack of choices, the game takes away the choices, or your choices don't matter. They genuinely did great job criticizing the game, and as far as I found out, probably the reviewer who reviewed Beyond doesn't work at IGN anymore because her last piece was in 2022. So this one is something that should be also addressed in Mixtape. So IGN used to have standards. All of these reviewers used to have standards. And the same things that the IGN review criticized Beyond Two Souls for, they didn't even address if it comes to Mixtape, which is incredibly sus and incredibly weird. And like, are the standards this low, or what happened? And I do remember this one because I also did enjoy Beyond Two Souls, but I found it kinda lacking in terms of the gameplay, that you couldn't fail, and you also can't fail at doing anything when you play Mixtape. This game doesn't deserve in any way, shape or form 10 out of 10 score. Me as a fan of the genre who likes these types of stories and these types of games, I could see myself giving it like a 7 maybe, because I actually enjoyed it. But if you are a person who just searches for a gameplay in a game, and even if you like these types of games, but you still expect some sort of gameplay, that's going to be maybe 4 for you. The game is also like 3 hours long and it costs $20, and I am like, I see people saying like it's only $19.99 for like 4-hour experience. And first, I don't even know how did you play this game for 4 hours, because I finished it in 3 hours. I picked up every single fucking solitary thing that was to be picked up. I spent probably 10 minutes throwing rocks at things at the lake, and you know what? Even if it is 4 hours, you know what else costs like $20? Silksong. Dead at the Disco is $20. On sale right now. Day one sale, $20. And those aren't 3-hour long experiences with low interactivity. No, this game has low interactivity, no replayability value. I mean, you can still replay it like you are watching a movie or a TV show, but not replay it because there is going to be some kind of different outcome to the things you're doing. Or just, I don't know, you can replay it to get achievements, because the only thing that makes you actually care about not bumping into cars, for an example, in the shopping cart sequence and stuff, is if you want to get achievements. One time I crashed into a car in the sequence and I got actually like teleported to a different spot, different position, and the scene just proceeded uninterrupted. Why? Because there is no stakes. There is nothing that you really need to do. I bumped into the car, I got this split-second black screen, and the scene continued, and the commentator was actually talking when the black screen was happening. I still did enjoy the game, I did. However, this is definitely a Game Pass game, because if you already have it, You can play it, get through it in one sitting, and that's it. And most people are never going to go back to it. And that's what I actually did. I was actually willing to buy the game, and I probably maybe wouldn't regret it that much. But I do have free Game Pass at the moment, so I just played it in Game Pass. And that's why I'm saying like Steam concurrent number of players doesn't mean shit if it comes to these types of games. Because the game is 3 hours long, people are going to finish it and move on. And a lot of people, like me for an example, are going to just play it in Game Pass because it's such a short game. I don't really have justification for giving $20 for this game. And except for like a multiplayer game, yeah, the multiplayer game, concurrent players on Steam do matter. But this one, not really. It's a single player experience, a short experience, and these types of games also do historically sell better on console. So if you have a Game Pass, I do recommend you to give it a try if you like this slice of life easy game that plays itself for the most time. But if you don't, and if you just want to buy it and you don't want to buy the Game Pass, I would say maybe wait for a sale.